How's it going, YouTube? Coming soon today with another video, and today, guys, I'm going to use my own personal deck vault. I really do like this kind of video because you get an insight into how I test and how I really look at decks differently. I have a ton of lists here, like I think 12. And so if you want another episode with even more lists, definitely let me know down in the comments below, because we're going to be going over each of the lists in particular. I'm not going to make this more of like a deck profile thing. I don't really want to do deck profiles anymore. This is going to be more breaking down the ideas and card choices in a deck, and really more of a guide to the deck and like what the deck's trying to accomplish right now. And I feel like that's really impactful too, with all the events coming up, and especially having the next YCS in a month. There's a lot of things that we're all prepping for right now, and having as much information as possible is what we want to see. Now, the ban list is going to come soon that might affect things, and we will do an updated version of all of these once the ban list is through, just so we have a very clear idea of what the lists look like moving forward, because the list can make things really awkward, and it can make deck building really hard too, especially right before an event. I really personally think they're going to be pushing the list after Utrecht, but maybe they'll surprise us and they'll still drop it before the YCS happens. Who knows? But without further ado, talk about my personal YCS list that I used this weekend. I really like how it performed. The only thing I would have changed was Droll. I think that Nibiru would have been way more impactful and won me way more games. The list itself, though, was insane. The ability to just blow out your opponent, because if you have like Storm and then you activate like a Cyclone, right, or you like Regeki Chain Chalice, like that's already spells engrave, and you're going to be hitting a very fast spell count. That happened to me a lot this weekend. I would go like Duster, like Upstart, and then like Cosmic a back row, right? The reason why I main decked Cosmic was the fact that it dealt with things like Scythe. It dealt with the main decked IO. It dealt with a lot of cards that you just really want to bait right now, right? There was a lot of issues too where I would play against like Sword Soul, and I knew that like if he used his blackout, then I would have just died, right? Because he had that and I had Rose, so it would have just been tough. Because I know like if I would have had Array somewhere, I'd have been feeling a lot better, because they have to target 2 cards on your board, but I didn't have a way to Array yet, so I didn't really want to waste my send on sending Array. Like I needed a power card at the moment, like a Afterburner, I believe, because I needed to clear his Baron. So it was really important that I just was able to go ahead and get to that, because I'd cleared his DPE, and then he still had Baron, even though it already uses negate. On the follow-up turn, he could just like revive the DPE, so I like needed it fast. So like Cosmic came up very clutch. There was a couple times when it was like dead, but at the same time, I feel like it was more relevant than it was dead the entire weekend, right? The other thing too that you'll see kind of unusual is that I'm playing 2 Area 0. I feel like it's really important, because if you just need a way to rate, right? And if you're stealing monsters, or if you're blowing your opponent's board, you need a way to be able to see more engine. So just being able to mill out into like the better cards in your deck, especially if you have like a dead Lightning Storm or like a dead Cosmic or what have you, being able to use that to transfer that into like a Shark Cannon, a Widow Anchor, an Afterburner, like it was super impactful all day, because the fact that like you can trade out cards for other cards and get more spell advantage, it was just so good. I'm also sideboarding 3 Spiritualism. Spiritualism was because it can't be negated, so you can just bounce IO to the hand, which is really cool, because you can like break their board after that, because it's also a spell engrave, right? So you start the spell count, and then you can break their board and then put them down to a multiple of 7. So if they do flip their IO again, they like die to their own IO, which is also really nice. But it wasn't even just for IO, right? Spiritualism is also very generically good if you're playing against like the trap decks that have like Gozen, and then you can activate the Spiritualism and bounce the Gozen through whatever they have, and then you can actually play the game, which I think was really impactful too, honestly. Love that card so much. It's like $5 right now, and I think that's a really nice investment. The other card that I have in my extra deck right now is Zero Boros. Zero Boros is really cool because there's a lot of people running Desires right now. And if you ever go into a matchup where like your opponent rips Desires and you rip Desires, your Zero Boros comes out like already over 7k. Like it's gigantic immediately. So I really do enjoy this card a lot. The ability to just steal a game and nobody knows that it's coming, or if you're playing against like the back row decks, you can set a Hornet Drone and have the Zero Boros on board, and then rip the Hornet Drone whenever they go to set their hand, and banish the board. Very, very impactful all day long. But other than that, the list itself performed really well. Got a couple unfortunate L's, but the deck itself is still very promising moving forward. So I personally prefer having multiple spells in my hand. I don't really want to see many monsters. That's why I try to keep my counts low. Like you see like a bunch of monsters here in mine. I play a bit less just because I really want to make sure that I just see a handful of spells so I can crack a board and get spell count at ASAP. If you are playing the go first variant with DPE, I almost think that Prosperity is like necessary. I know that I don't personally really love this card too much because you lose a lot of your engine, but like if you're going to be playing this type of a build, you need to be able to see like a There Can Be Only One, a Fusion Destiny. Like you need something to make it impactful, right? Especially if you're like drawing your bricks or like dead cards, against a matchup. You just need to make sure that you have a way to play if you're going first. So having the There Can Be Only One is really impactful as well. There's not much more to say about this because it's just DPE and Striker. But I think that if you are going first, that Prosperity is pretty necessary. If you're just like playing regular Striker with like no DPE, then you can just play Desires. It's fine. I don't really like Prosperity in that kind of a build, but seeing your There Can Be Only One, your side cards, your Fusion Destiny, like it's way too important in this type of a deck. I do have a third list for you guys for Striker, and that is going to be Brave Striker. I do really enjoy the Brave engine. I think that this is really revolutionary for the deck. The fact that you go Rights, you get a spell, you go your Draco back, you get a spell, then you have your Journey on board, that's a spell. Like you hit your spell count so fast going second with this because you have the bounce to the Draco back, you have the Omni Negate through the Griffin, and then even if you don't open like anything right, you can special the Griffin from your hand, normal Ray, make Zeke bait a negate by trying to banish it, then negate, and like let's say they destroy it, right? Then you just summon back Ray, and then you have like all day to play, right? Like you have everything you needed. I really enjoy this personally because you can also have the Journey on your board, and every single turn you can add Aquamancer, pitch Aquamancer, banish Aquamancer, search Rites of Armesia, and then you just keep gaining spells. It's actually just insane. Another couple things I want to point out is that I do run the Asa in this type of a build because there's still a lot of Earths that go to the grave right now, and the fact that you can just like use the token as an Earth and immediately make an Asa if you are trying to push for a game with your like your Griffin, or if you have an Aquamancer on board and the token, you can like use them. The other thing that you can do is if you open the Griffin or the Aquamancer, you can make the BLS link, and since the Griffin's over 7, you can go ahead and make sure that your BLS can't be targeted and can be destroyed by card effects. So if you run over something and make it 4,500, it's inherently hard to deal with. If you do want to play a couple of like Eagle Booster as well, that's also an option. But I think that this is like super cool. And the fact that like you can just have like such good engine pieces, and like you also have a lot of good blowout cards that you can play. Just to make sure that you're able to crack a board and then set up your own, right? That's always the most important thing here. I always feel very safe beyond a BLS multi-roll set Widow Anchor, right? It feels very good. So I personally really enjoy Brave. Hopefully we have the Hamp by this time, but this is like such a good way to play the deck right now. The next deck I want to talk about is Bird Up. Bird Up is a very cut and dry deck right now. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is. It's the best deck in the format though, undisputed. I feel like this deck is insane. Once it sets up full board plus the Oath, there's just not much more you can do about it, right? Unless you have like all the board breakers, but it's really hard when the Oath can even negate things like the Droplet, the Dark Ruler. Granted, if you have a trap for the Dark Ruler or the Droplet, it can be very good then, but you just still need a lot of playback, right? It gets very tough to deal with that kind of a board. But like they also just have a really good follow-up, right? Because they have the Barrel Canary as well, that if you do crack their board, they can go Barrel summon the Cobalt, and then Cobalt add a Nerval for like the follow-up turn, overlay make assemble Nightingale, and then just like make a Zeus and clear the board again, right? So I think that's really strong too. Bird Up, again, it's very cut and dry, but I still want to mention it because it's still a very relevant deck. Although, again, the ban list might be seeing a big hit to this. This still really nice to have a deck list that you can kind of work off of if that does happen, and we can kind of go from there and see what changes. Similarly, we have Tri-Brigade DPE. So I really enjoy this too because I think this was really revolutionary. The first time I saw this, I was like, oh my, like this is like insane because you have the Bear Brum effect, right? If you're unfamiliar, this is Bear Brum done here. When you use its effect, you're locked into Tri-Brigades. So that's the main reason why nobody ran like Dragoon, right? But there is a way to play around it with DPE, because you can summon the Bear Brum and then go Anaconda, summon your DPE, and then you can go DPE effect, pop itself and the Bear Brum, and then the Bear Brum will then search the Revolt, and you can set Revolt, and then on the next turn you can go ahead and revive your DPE, and now you have Revolt, DPE, your standard end board, which might even be like an Appaloosa. Like, you just have so much gas, and like playing the pure variant, I feel like is perfectly fine. You don't always need the bird cards, right? Like Tri-Brigade itself was utility based. Like, you could play so much utility, and that's why it was so good. And it still is, honestly. Like, you don't have to play birds. Another card I want to mention is Crossout. You don't need to play Crossout, but I feel like this card just really enables so much in the deck just to be able to go off. Since you're already playing all the cards that would out you, like, there's no reason to like not play this card. So I want to put it on the side here, because if you don't own Prosperities, you can always just play Crossouts. Like, it's perfectly fine. Of course, Prosperity and Crossout objectively do different things, but I think that it's still fine if you want to just run a 3 of Crossout to make it a bit more budget. Again, that's perfectly fine, because crossouts are dropping. I think they're like 35 now. They're pretty cheap. But moving forward from this, we have Dragon Link. I think Dragon Link is still really solid. The ability to run DPE, and then if you mill your Plasma and your Celestial off of your Chaotic Ruler, you can either choose to leave them both in there and get a draw 2 if your board's already cracked, or if you want to make DPE, you can add back the Celestial, banish away the Plasma when you send your Chaotic Ruler to the graveyard and you resummon it, you can banish it, and then use your Chaos Base to return your Plasma from your Banish them back to your deck. Again, big shout outs to Sam1 for that. Really, really cool play that you can do in the deck, just to make sure that you have your DPE play live and always ready to go, because the deck itself can already combo, right? It can already do crazy boards, but like now you can already have the DPE alongside that, and then that's just like that much better, right? I think that's really nice. Moving forward to Live Twins, I'm going to do another big shout out to Zach Sitek. I really respected this deck, and I really liked it when it first was announced, right? I tested it a ton, and I was like, you know what? This deck has some promise. It's pretty cool. And then I dropped the deck, and I was like, you know what? I don't really think it's that good. I don't really respect this deck. It's fine. And then Zach really came up to me and was like, you know, here's a theory behind the deck, and this is why it's so good. And it made me really think, because the deck plays a lot like Striker, because you're trading 1-for-1 interactions until you're up in card advantage. And once you're up in card advantage, you don't lose that card advantage. Especially in Live Twins, because you're drawing 2 every turn. Because you're going on your opponent's turn, pink effect, like the Link 2. And then you also have Frost in your graveyard, so the second they add to their hand, you can just go Frost effect and draw another one. And then on your turn, you're also able to just like draw for turn and then go pink effect and draw again. So like every single turn, you're drawing 2, which is just insane. The ability to main deck cards like Crossout as well. I really like Avarice. I think that this card is necessary. Like, you absolutely have to run this, because sometimes you are forced to tag out of your Trouble Sunny, and then you summon out like your pink and your blue, and then you have a lot of dead Trouble Sunnies just sitting in your graveyard that you don't really need to use yet, and you'd rather have them again. So I always just play the Avarice, because it's a one-of, so the odds that you actually see it in your opening hand are very, very slim. And being able to see this card late game, especially when you're already deck things so much, that it's just such a meaningful top deck that I would just never trade in this deck. I think that it's the one deck that you just absolutely need to run Avarice in. That's just me personally. The other thing too is you have to play this one, the boss monster, like the main deck one, because this is the best thing to send off your Trouble Sunny. When it's in the graveyard, you can banish it and then send the main deck monster to the graveyard and send a card in the field to the graveyard, which is really nice. I feel like this one's very important just to run for this interaction alone. Other than that, I feel like the deck alone has a ton of potential. The fact that the Sunny Snitch can just like keep burning your opponent every time they summon for 200 and you keep gaining 200. I've been randomly at 10k before and just watch my opponent go down to like 6k, and I'm like, wow, that was fast. And then you feel so much better, you know, because you're already way up in life and your opponent's already down. That it's pretty free from there, right? And the other thing that I really like about this deck is the fact that you can sideboard cards like Enemy Controller. So when you're going second, if you activate like Kiss Kill effect, right? Like you normal summon Kiss Kill, you go effect. They go Imperm, Widow Anchor, and then you go Chain Econ, tribute my monster, and then steal yours. And then you can steal their monster, like resolve yours, which is pretty nice. This deck has a ton of very cool interactions, so I think that that's something that you should really consider, just because the cards themselves just have so much promise moving forward in the format. Moving forward though, Plunder Patrol, I really like this deck. I think that it has a lot of promise too. This is something that really has not seen the spotlight yet. It's got a couple cool wins at regionals, or at least top 8s if I recall correctly. And so what I really like about this deck though is the fact that the whole deck itself has ways to replace itself. So like the Whitebeard is honestly the best card in the deck outside of the Raven Eyes. This one, if it gets sent from the field, the hand, like you just summon from the deck another Plunder, right? And then this one, the Raven Eyes allows you to go ahead and activate it from hand, get a Plunder back from your graveyard to your hand, and then special summon itself, which is also just very good. And I believe when it's sent from the field to the grave, you can special summon one from your spell and trap zone. So just a lot of playability with your opponent. Another thing too that's really important to point out is the fact that the field spell, if you have it on field, you have one in grave, you can use the effect from the one in graveyard and then activate the one on board, and then you're able to special summon one from your spell and trap zone, which is just another way to just ping monsters on the board, right? Moving forward, I'd probably take out the talents and play 3 Nibiru in the main deck because it's just way more impactful. But I really do like this list in general just because it nets so much advantage, especially with the golden hair. This card's actually just nuts because you can like normal summon it, make Almirage, and then use the golden hair effect to discard one, special summon it again, and then go right into your link 2. And so it's a 1-card link 2. You can also use this effect in hand to discard another card and special summon it. So like it has a ton of ways to ping itself out on the board. And like every other one of them is like a tuner, which is pretty wild too. And then I think it's a Bluebeard, I think his name is. This is another one that is just like a free summon. It's like a Fire Flint Lady from the hand. Then you also get to like draw one when it's sent from the field, which is really nice. The deck itself, again, I could see a lot of competitive play for this in the future. We just need like 1 or 2 more support cards, and the deck could see a lot of play. Invoked, Shaddoll, Dogmatika. I really like this deck. I feel like there's a lot of people who disagree with running the Shaddoll Fusion and the Aerial Dragon. I feel like it's way too important to run these because the amount of value that you get off of a Shaddoll Fusion is ridiculous. Like, you get so much for 1 card, especially against like the big combo decks that like they need to negate this thing. And if they don't, they're going to be going like really down into advantage, right? So I personally really enjoy having this engine in here. A lot of people do not, but again, I do. As far as the deck goes, it's pretty cut and dry too, like Bird Up. There's not a whole lot of like spice to it. It kind of is what it is. That's what I like about this kind of a list though, because it gives me a really good insight into like the standard deck, right? So if I ever come into that situation, then I just like know what to do when that moment arises, right? Moving forward though, Virtual World, I feel like this one's really cool because you have a lot of advantage here with the small world. Being able to banish that Nibiru and search your Lulu, also very good because they share the same defense. There's so many different ways in this deck that you can just like either be really explosive or you can play really control, right? That's what I really enjoy because having Shenshin Chuche is still really powerful, and the fact that you now have an extra Rota to get to your Lulu is so like it's honestly so strong. The fact that you can just like go to full combo whenever you want to. I still play Dragoon because it's still like a 100% like auto win against certain decks. So I think that it's really important to still play. I don't really care for Calico too much. Plus the second E-Telly really does help here, right? Moving forward, Shaddoll Dino. I really like this deck. I think it's really cool. The fact that you can run this Shaddoll Fusion as well, it's so strong because if you're just going second anyway, being able to go like Op Clone and like negate a card, going into your aerial banishing cards, your dragon popping a back row, like it just, again, it nets you so much advantage, and when it resolves, and it makes your evolution pill feel that much better because you also have just extra monsters that you can just banish, right? If you really need to. The other thing I really like is that you can go like the small world here, and you can go like banish Nibiru, banish Armydorn, and then add the Miscellaneousaurus, which is pretty nuts. Other than that, there's a lot of really cool interactions in the deck too. If you are going to play the Gallant Granite, you can play Nemesis Keystone and recycle your Miscellaneousaurus. If you're going into game 2 and you know that they're going to make you go first because you have cards like Lightning Storm in your main, you just side all of it out and you side in like Stormwinds, which is the barrier statue, and then you can do your play with like the Samorglink and the Reaperdocus, and then just set up a big board. Like UCT, you can set up, I'll probably do like Logia, but you can pick Logia or Dolka. and then you can do like your Simorglink and the Stormwinds, and that's usually just like enough, right? It's pretty wild. So I really like the ability to just go second and kill a Dino, because having cards like Prosperity and Small World to get to your miscellaneous source, it's still a deck that can outright OTK if you have Misk, right? So this is another way that you can really consider playing the deck, because it gives you a lot of ways to just end the game very fast. Prank Kid. So again, I talked about this before. The only thing I want to say about this though is the fact that if you are playing Fusion Destiny, it's so good because you're able to resolve your Fusion Destiny and summon DPE and like have hand traps to protect it. Or if they ash your Fusion Destiny, that you can go ahead and just like summon a Prank Kid, right? And then go Prank Kid effect, and they can't ash you anymore because they already ashed your Fusion Destiny. So it's really good, especially if you're in game 1 and like you just blankly activate Fusion Destiny. Like they don't know what you're on, they're probably just gonna ash it because like there's no reason not to at that point, right? So I think it's really cool. This is a definitely a contender moving forward. Once we get the Brave tokens, especially. But I like the fact that you can just play like the Fusion Destiny package, and it nets you so much advantage, especially that draw 2. And this deck is so nice. But that was 12 decks, so I hope that you enjoyed that. If you want to see more, definitely let me know down in the comments below. What decks would you like to see? There's so many different builds out there and so many different decks that I just look at, honestly, on a daily basis to make sure that I'm on top of things. I know what they do. I know how to interact with them. And it's really important for me that I have all these decks just kind of locked up in a vault, right, that I can just look at whenever I want to. So I want to make sure that you also have that same opportunity. If you're not already part of the community, Discord, Twitch, Twitter, we are trying to grow that Twitter community as well, so definitely go over there and follow me on there so you can get caught up with all the latest updates too. All those links are in the description below. If you do want a coaching session, go over to the Metafy page as well. You can go ahead and look at my prices, look at what I do, look at how I coach my different sessions. There's a lot of things between technical play, one-on-one, deck building, general theory help. You can also message me on Discord if you don't see something that really resonates with you and something that you would like to do instead. Let me know and we can try to work something out. The field centers are on sale for 12 apiece. I really do hope that you enjoy those. That was something that I had a lot of fun working with. Midnight Dreams and Cardboard Gaming for the printing and the design. It came out really nice, so I'm really happy to be releasing those. I hope that everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you all so very much.